the February 22nd meeting of the Cemetery Commission to order. The first order of business is the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next order of business is to welcome Pat Flynn, the Laurel.
Hold till she gets here.
Okay, we can certainly do that. Let's hope she gets here. I wanted to check in on the action items from last month. Mike was going to be contacting Mark Faber, the tree warden.
About the tree cutting, yes.
Yes.
He was in here, and I have to apologize, I did not
All right.
get a chance to follow up on that.
Right. Well, that's why we do the check-ins.
Yes.
And Mike, you also were going to contact Preservation Inc. to learn of their interest in submitting a bid to do the work. Okay. And Roxanne, you're next. You were going to check on the old CPC project fund. We thought there was some money somewhere, 27.
We went over that last meeting. Didn't we give you the number last meeting?
It was like 22,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, for cemetery,
It's 22, and what can it
I
be?
mean, that's off the top of my head. That's correct, right?
let me call, I can call it right up.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, there was
22.
And also, what are the restrictions?
Say 27, it looks like.
Yeah, I thought there was 27.
Twos and
I'm
sevens.
not sure
looks
about the
solid.
restrictions.
Have the barrier.
Okay.
Okay. Mike, did you know if there were any restrictions on it? Do we know what kind of an account it was put into?
It's CPC, so it's prior authorized.
Yeah,
I know.
Prior authorization just to do cemetery assessments.
Oh,
That's all that's listed as.
Just to do cemetery what?
assessment.
Assessments.
Assessment. Okay.
So he needs that to pay for the,
Well,
No, it's part of this
that's great. That's perfect.
project.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Right.
And it's 22 and not 27?
I will tell you that in just 1 second.
I'm remembering it might have been 27,
That's what I thought you said.
because I thought we talked about this a little bit the last time,
Let me call,
unless I'm just confusing who I was talking to.
And you only talk to, 2 or 3 people every couple of months, right?
I think that's what it was.
continue on, I will pull those up.
Okay, great.
Pulling them up, I don't want you to.
Oh, okay, all right. So the next item is a bylaw change to add one more at-large member. I'd like to do that. Are there any thoughts or discussions on that?
yeah, what's the current breakout of at-large versus, kind of
Yeah.
designated?
The Cemetery Commission consists of the Board of Selectmen, so that's 3 people, the town clerk, the cemetery consultant, now known as, we're calling the facilities manager, the highway superintendent, and 1 member of Laurel Hill and 2 other at-large members appointed by the board.
And do we have those now? Year one?
Yes, we have 2, Candace and me.
Candace, okay.
Yeah.
I only have a couple of concerns, well, 3 concerns really. One is that if you go from 9 to 10, it's an even number. I don't like boards with even numbers. 2, if you go from 9 to 10, you require a quorum of 6 rather than a quorum of 5. You know, Today, for
Well, they're
example,
not all voting members, so.
they would be. And
Yeah, they would be.
we have 9 voting members now, and
Yeah.
if we go to 10, we'll.
Yeah.
Oh, this is another voting member.
This will be another voting member.
Oh, okay.
Unless we stipulate that it's not a voting member.
But then anybody can volunteer and anybody can come to a
What's the
meeting.
rationale for wanting to add someone?
I'd like to get Peter on.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
I'd love to have Peter on. Now, Peter shows up every meeting and contributes, so
Yeah.
if we don't need this official.
Yeah, I mean, I can, whatever works for you guys, I'll show up one way or another.
Okay, my third concern is just in general, bylaws are permanent and forever. And, I'm a giant fan of Peter's, but to, maybe giving us the flexibility, for example, so if we have an opening, for example, the facilities manager is unfilled, giving the commission the flexibility to temporarily appoint someone when there's an opening that can't be filled right now because we don't have a facilities manager. I mean, I think that maybe we sort of think through how we increase the flexibility at 9 so that,
Well, do you have the bylaw in front of you
I do.
in its entirety?
Yeah.
Is there a provision for us to appoint?
Oh, no, and I don't have it. No, there isn't.
Okay.
No, there isn't. And I agree with you, and I agree with you about the number. I'm a little concerned that we have, the bylaws don't give us much flexibility. As you said, they're supposed to be forever. I mean, it's very cumbersome. This is not an ideal, I don't particularly want to bring this to the town. It seems like not a great thing to vote on. But on the other hand, if we want to make a change, it has to be done that way, so.
I mean, I would prefer that we just simply, town employees work for the town administrator. If the town administrator needs a town employee to be at this meeting, they'll be at this meeting. They report to him. If you want to change the bylaws, I would suggest, replacing town employees like facilities manager with the at-large position. So we don't increase the board size and we simply encourage more volunteers. And when we need the other folks to be in the room, we'll make sure they're in the room.
Well, then I would say not the facilities manager, because we
I'm
need.
not saying, I'm using that.
Say
as
for,
an example.
like, for me.
Exactly. I think that would make sense. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just because I think Peter, I mean, I don't have a lot of knowledge. I don't feel like I do,
Right.
And it is in the workday, it is that whole thing too. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
it kind of does.
All right. So how do we go about making asking the town to make a bylaw change? What are the steps?
We do it all the time.
Well, you're talking about.
Even though they're permanent.
Removing the clerk? I don't think we should remove the clerk.
No.
Or maybe change my,
We can make a large and add one. Yeah. I think we should think about it.
right.
And
We can certainly keep thinking about it and.
we have 3 months.
Or you
so I
could
mean-
go to 11, and then you have an uneven number. But then it's harder to get a quorum.
Right.
I mean, the only other point I'd make, and this is, we have a hard enough time recruiting folks for the myriad boards we have. And there's at least a dozen and a half above boards in this town. This is one that meets monthly and many people can only have time to serve on one board. So I just really think we should try to take the slots we have and maximize them and not necessarily, this is are there any boards bigger than 9 in the entire town?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so
Okay.
either.
All right. There's something to be.
And I'm not, I'm all for.
No, this is fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe this is a problem that doesn't need a solution. If Peter's willing to come to the meetings and contribute, which he's been great.
I mean, we're thrilled that you're here.
Yeah, it's
We
been.
don't want you here.
It's been quite significant in terms of,
I would make a motion that we offer him free candy.
I'm sorry, I can't support that. Okay, so we will not do this.
Candace wants to talk.
Yeah, I have one comment. I mean, one of the things we're missing is somebody from the Laurel Hill Association, right?
No, we have someone now. She was supposed to be coming today.
Oh, that's what Pat is representing. Okay, I was going to suggest that we have Laurel Hill Association and or somebody from a preservation organization.
Yeah. But no, at this point,
Okay.
that seems to be settled, so.
Okay.
So we won't do this then. All right. Next item.
Would you mind if I called her and reminded her that we're going, Pat?
No, go ahead. But in the meantime, are we willing to accept the draft of the consultant's report and move to the final? Candace?
I move that we accept it.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, done. Wonderful. The next,
It's Patrick. Are you coming to our meeting?
27,000.
On speaker, or do you want her to keep trying?
she can get it through if she goes to the town calendar.
You go into the town calendar and click it. You usually don't need a password.
Go to the town calendar and then go to our agenda. And then she should
There'll be
be.
a link.
27,773.
She's having Zoom troubles. Do you want her to keep trying or put her on speaker?
27773. I thought it was Margaret 27.
Okay.
And it tells me it's the meeting.
Is that all right with you?
I can't hear.
And Shelby just tried it on his phone. I called Shelby to get Karen's cell phone number, and he tried it and he got in. The only thing I can think of is cookies.
Yeah, maybe.
I ignored the cookies message. Should I try it again?
All right.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on the technology part. Mike, what do you think? She just can't get
Stay
in.
on the phone with us, or is that?
Try it next
I
time.
believe,
See what happens.
I think since that last training is that if you are a voting member,
Yeah.
I think you have.
Pat, keep trying. I think it's unfortunately illegal for us to just leave you on speaker with
Guests
my
can
phone
be, but not.
because of the state. So,
Okay.
Unless you don't have a working.
you know, maybe try accept cookies this
He
time. I
does.
don't know.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, I'll just stay on the phone here.
No.
No, we can't do that. It's against the state law, unfortunately.
Is she home?
okay.
She could just
All right,
come in.
I just wanna make-
Maybe
The
3
only
minutes.
thing I can think of is that
Cookies. It might be
ignored
the,
the cookies thing.
Yeah, try that again.
I probably should.
She's got a broken.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Oh, no,
Yep.
really?
Yeah, and a broken finger, so that's why she
Yeah.
needs to come via Zoom.
Right.
No.
Otherwise, she's very close, but,
Yeah, no, she.
Excuse me, this is Stephen at CTSB.
yes.
This meeting is on an old login for the Cemetery Commission, so she might need to go, if she can't get into this meeting, you might need to go to the current
we have to go by the one,
agenda
we have to go by the one that's
for the
posted.
correct number.
Okay, can we,
I used the one from last month. I mean,
Right.
Steve,
Steve, they're moving, we're actually have a meeting later today. I'm
can you
joining.
forward the correct link to Pat? I can give you her
No,
email.
can't.
we can't. We have
Can't
to.
legally.
Go, just have to go to right on our website, is it correct? It's just one.
She's already on the phone. Okay.
This is not the generic login. It's an older cemetery individual login.
I swear I used the one from last month, so.
Yeah, we don't want to
Yeah.
do that. Use the town.
Yeah, it is the one from last month, but I didn't correct it last time.
All right.
All right.
Oh, okay.
By the way, I totally support hybrid meetings, but this is one of the problems for chairs like me. If I didn't have Mike here, this would be a huge issue. So I
And
mean.
you have a one with a broken hip who's not going to be able to participate without it too.
No, I'm not opposed to, I think that we need more help with the technology is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So,
always going to be a con because you can have technological problems and you have to end your meeting.
Yeah, well, okay.
People just need to understand that.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully Pat will make it on. And Steve, can I talk to you after the meeting and find out what I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not?
I'll send you we'll send you.
There you
the
go.
one.
Perfect.
That's-
Thank you.
That's not a problem. There's the new generic one, and then we have a meeting at 1:30 to go over, is it 1:30 or 1, Steve? To go over webinar, I got it in my calendar. And that, to go over the webinar features and stuff as we move forward.
That'll be great. All right. So the next item is the proposal to restore the Sergeant tombs. And you all got copies of that. And you all saw the amount. So I just wanted to review the impacts on the funding request, if any. And just to hear people's thoughts on it.
I think we should go for it with CPC next year. Personally.
Okay, other thoughts?
What's the total again?
Well,
81,000.
81,000 if all the steps proceed. And you might remember, and you don't have it in front of you, but there are multiple places along the way where we pause and look at what's been found and what might be, but they're estimating this would be the total if everything proceeded. I think we should proceed. I think we should proceed as well. And I think right now we should think about folding it into the work we're doing, because the cleaning may not cost, we've used maximum amounts for everything they've assumed. It may not cost that much. We've talked about getting volunteers to help out with the cleaning. So the cleaning may not cost as much. And then we actually have this additional 27,000. And then we can go to CPC for anything that's, for anything that's remaining. So I think I'd like to go back to them and say, yes, make this part of the project.
I mean, isn't the current project like 300,000?
Yeah,
Yeah, so, and there's 400,000 in the cemetery trust fund?
right. What
And
I'm
we-
saying is we don't ask for more out of we don't take more out of the cemetery trust fund. That we work with what we have, get this in there, and as we go through the project, it's going to take us 3 years to go through the entire project anyway. As it unfolds, we'll have a sense of how much money we need, and we can go to CPC for some of it.
Yeah, we just can't, obviously we can't go to CPC for projects that have begun or have been completed. Do you know? I know we can't for completed projects, if projects are in the middle.
Can't go after a project.
Right, I know.
And I'd have to check with CCC if funding is already, if you've already identified the funding, but we have here. We're saying that we're gonna operate, because we're going for top dollar amount, we're gonna attempt to include this under. But if it doesn't, we'd have to pull it out as a separate project next year. I don't think there's an issue there
Okay,
in that. Because right now, there was some work that could be done volunteers and others.
Right.
We're putting in for the maximum cost.
Plus contingency.
right, exactly.
Plus contingency.
But that's what we have to
Already got a
do.
10% contingency in there.
We do, 10%.
But not on this one.
No, but
This is
Funding
90.
request that we made for the 280 includes a 10%
That's
contingency.
right. But if we're going to add 90, 81 to it, we're just going to really add 90 because we're not going to hope for the best. And, we add contingency now. Isn't that our process?
Yeah, you should always ask.
Yeah. So, if we go with, unfortunately, if we roll this in, then we're going to need to fund the whole thing at town meeting. Now, if that's what we want to do, we can do that. But once that's funded.
okay, I don't think I explained clearly I'm saying we don't add any additional, that as we move through, we go with the amount that we have. And as we move through, we see if we can include this. Because there's going to be steps along the way. For example, the very first step costs $7,400.
Which it won't if we have volunteers.
Right, I mean, the very first step of the sergeant.
No, but I know what, actually, I agree with what Patrick's saying.
Oh, okay.
That right now, this one, we're gonna look at next year.
Okay,
About September, next year, when we look at it, we can see how we're progressing on the rest and make a decision. But if we decide that we are funding this, then I believe that one of the contingencies, right, the CPC, is that it can't be a completed project. And I don't think you can also, typically with money, you can't, if you've already appropriated. So we don't want to say this has been appropriated yet.
okay,
I think we want to say that this is a separate project, but we're going to reevaluate as we go along, and maybe next year we determine that, look, we're running way under, we can incorporate this, but at this point.
But a different question, which could justify it now, is there irreparable damage that could occur in the next 24 months where we really need to fold this into the current proposal so we can start work? I mean, those slabs have been sitting in the ground for years, and that is a completely legitimate question that I think we should talk about, is whether or not delay on this could put the tombs further at risk.
yeah, I agree.
So the report says, they ended up flat on the ground. There they suffer accelerated weathering, biographical growth, and freeze thaw damage from high moisture levels and potential harm from lawn mowing equipment and pedestrians. So it seems like they're saying bad things are slowly happening, and the question that for the commission is, do we want to stop that now or later or what?
Then the other thing is, do we take this description of work, can it be broken out in terms of, obviously, number one, we could do. I mean, we're talking 7,400 minus, I mean, if we're using volunteers. So this is a drop in the bucket. This is not much.
I should just state that we're funding number one.
It was nothing.
Yeah.
Of this.
That's an easy one because you can get that part done
Right.
this spring.
Well, that's what I was wondering too. Could we do this part?
It's an old link, I guess.
Let's vote to do that part.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just split that out of this whole thing because that way at least you get it cleaned up and ready to go for all the rest that has to be done.
And at that point, they hope maybe they'll give us some more information about what they think it might cost going down the road, so.
Yeah.
So we could do that part.
Yeah.
Do we have to?
It's 7,400, right?
Right, 7,400, yeah.
That we're just gonna do, we're gonna incorporate phase one of that into the current project.
That's
So,
just,
Yes.
Candace has a question. Was the cleaning of those tablets already part of the preservation project? I don't remember, or were they separated out?
It seems a little unclear. Well, the cleaning of the sergeant tombs doesn't seem to be part of the consultant report. They don't seem to have gone near the sergeant tombs until we asked them to look at it, so.
Should we consider roping them off or something while we try to complete the work?
No.
No.
Roping them off
Yeah,
won't change the biological growth on them. That's one of the big issues. They're on the ground. That's the problem.
Well, I just don't want the, equipment and pedestrians, and that was what I was stressing. That's fine.
All right, so do we need to do anything in particular to make this?
As a committee, you should vote to incorporate phase one into the current.
Okay, could I have a motion on that then?
Motion to include the $7,400 budget for phase one in the current cemetery work proposal.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Great. Thank you, guys. I think that's a good plan. All right, cemetery fees. You all got that sheet I sent out?
I don't have it with me though. Just put it in the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Eye-opening.
Yeah, was it? Yes,
Yeah.
a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know who's typically buried in our cemetery?
People.
Well, you can't be living in Stockbridge and get buried in there.
Yeah,
You can't bury living people.
well, not living people.
I'm kidding. So these are mostly, who chooses is my point. Can any taxpayer choose to be buried in the cemetery, or is it just residents, or how does that work?
Residents.
It's residents.
I have the bylaw in front of me. And 1.2 says residents or taxpayers, including longtime residents or taxpayers who have needed to move to assisted living or nursing facilities, shall be entitled upon death to be interred in a burial plot in the town cemetery, subject to the requirements of this article.
Yeah, that was changed, a couple of years ago. We had.
Yes, it was, yeah. Up until then, you had to be living in town, I think, but so you can see that we are charging way less.
Way less.
Way less. So at this point, as far as I can tell, we are only collecting $250 from each burial to go into our cemetery fund.
What's the 300 for?
What's the 550?
Well, I said, if the opening and closing is done by the town,
Okay.
I don't think it is being done by the town right now.
It has been done for years by the town.
Well, no, we're talking about cremation, I'm sorry.
Cremation.
Full casket burials have not been done by the town for a long time.
Cremations haven't been either.
Yeah, well, I think Joe was doing some and I thought Chris had done some, but I don't think we're doing them. I think now Rich Atwood is doing all of that. And that's okay. I wanted to confirm that, which means then we are only collecting $250 in
Do you
cemetery.
have a recommendation?
Yeah, I'd like to double it.
Okay, but that's still far below, like some of these
Still
other
far
towns.
below.
Of course, it is far
everybody else.
below.
Michael, is there a mechanism by which we could bring our fees in line with what other surrounding towns are doing while concurrently providing a fund for relief of those fees in the event that it's
You guys could always set up something
if by need,
by
basically.
need based, we
Yeah.
just figure out the protocol for
I mean, what would you think of that?
establishing that. Now, the other thing is that your perpetual care fees, most of these that you showed in the other town are $300, $300. I
Right.
know they collect those other fees, but those are part of their budgets. They go to the town employees that cover the cost. So basically the one that the towns are keeping is the perpetual care. So you're proposing to just double the perpetual care? Because most of the other towns you had listed were $300.
We also charge for plots.
But they also charge for plots. So that's another form
And the
of,
reason why they charge for plots, and we may have to check this as a matter of law, you own the plot. It's a deeded
Right.
piece of property.
Right.
So there has to be a transfer. I believe you have to have a transfer in order to have transfer of ownership.
Are you suggesting that people don't own the plots that their families are buried in?
They don't.
they don't,
Most of them,
they
The
don't.
town of
There's only-
Stockbridge owns
there's a couple that are privately owned,
right.
but it's only like 2 or
But those
3.
are separated out on our thing, and the rest of them, this is a truly town-owned cemetery, where the land and everything is owned by the town. Most other cemeteries, you get a deeded right to your cemetery plot. So when you see that they're charged for a plot, they're paying for a transaction to happen.
Like
But I'm
St. Joseph's, you
Yeah.
pay for the
Right.
plot there.
But I'm assuming that also goes into some kind of fund for, well, I
The
suggested,
difference is that just pointing out the fact that a transfer does include some transfer documents as far as recording fees and other things, because they get recorded, just like a regular land transaction. And you own that lot. And and that's typically why cemeteries sell lots, and they'll have one price for residents, one for non-residents,
Right.
because it's just illegal. Ours is, no, this is a town-owned cemetery, we own it. You're agreeing to be interned within it.
right.
And there's so many people who it's so important to, they feel like that's their best benefit of living in Stockbridge. I mean, it's very important to them, very
had-
important to
I
them.
had
I
people
would-
from Lennox ask me how to get into our cemetery, and I said, well, buy property.
That's it.
And some people do, some people will buy a
I know.
house just to be buried there.
I'm serious, I've had that request.
Yeah,
I think we should not start charging for plots,
No.
number one, and I don't have a problem with doubling the 250 to 500. I think it's still reasonable.
Yeah. But that puts us at the highest, because remember, this doesn't include what the funeral homes are charging, which is included in some of the other
But it
towns.
doesn't put us at the highest
Well,
because
those
we're not
burial
charging
charges
for
are
plots.
usually already worked out, so those are all part of.
The funeral,
A lot of ours are just happening behind the scenes.
That's what I'm saying, like,
Ours-
but in some other towns where it's town employees opening, closing, the site, for example, that's in this list, and it's not in our list because the funeral homes do it.
actually Great Barrington, they hire Rich Atwood to do it. It's the same person we're using. So they're not using town employees either.
But
so where
they're
does,
charging
so
in
should we be
hiring.
putting money towards?
Charging what?
Should we,
Yes, look how much they're charging. Yes, they charge a lot.
But I'm assuming then that the funeral home doesn't charge to open and close it. Right now, the transaction is private
The
here.
funeral home does not do the opening and closing of the grave.
No, but you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Even in the other towns, usually you pay your fee to the funeral home.
Right.
And then the funeral home pays the town,
Right.
the individual,
Right.
the everything.
I'm not being clear. On the list, it says opening and closing for every town except Stockbridge. And then for opening and closing here, it says none because it's paid by the family to the funeral home. It's just apples and oranges is the point I'm making.
In Great Barrington, the funeral home charges for the opening and closing, and they turn that fee over to the town. Here, they turn it over to
Rich Atwood,
Rich
a
Atwood.
private citizen.
So we could list his.
The
And
only
then
point I'm
when-
making is that at this document, it's a little apples to oranges because the totals that we're looking at do not include the opening and closing because of this private transaction.
Then I'm happy to tell you what Rich's fees
All
are
right,
for
sure.
Stockbridge.
What are they?
For a full cemetery, a full casket burial is 700 plus 200 if it's in the winter. For cremation, it's 300 Monday through Saturday until noon, and another more charges after, and didn't write those down, from Saturday afternoon into Sunday. So
so that's his money, so that money goes right to him, is that?
Money goes
so-
right to him.
Okay,
And those
so
funds-
we're not paying
And the funds
anything,
in the other
gotcha.
town go to. So
Gotcha.
you usually get one check usually two checks from the funeral home. You get one for all the other, for
Right.
all the costs, and then you get one for the perpetual care.
Right,
Yeah.
so we're not even involved in giving Rich
Right,
Atwood
right.
any money, so I get that, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's dealt with through there.
right.
And like they said, opening and closing fees, some of these say range between 650, it depends on when it's happening. It might be town employees that do it instead of the other person. There's a whole bunch of different ways to
Right.
look at them. The two big ones that are just charges are the charge for the plot, which other than the recording fee if it's a deeded plot, and then the perpetual care, which is your maintenance of your cemetery forever. So.
And we've talked about that before, upping that perpetual care amount.
Oh, it's been,
You know, we've talked about it for years.
yeah. It's very small, and it's not enough to sustain us. That's the thing. That's what I'm concerned about. The amount, I mean, I'd love to not raise it. But how are we going to, 20 years from now, how are we going to do things there? That is what that is for. It is for care of the cemetery. So how do we do this? It's,
Right now, we take in about 4,000 annually,
right.
which doubling it would be about 8,000 annually for burials.
Yeah.
Well, especially since we're doing this big, we're trying to fix things and everything. I mean, you have to think that we need to replenish too, I mean,
We have a lot of deferred maintenance at this point, unfortunately. So,
I mean, yeah, we also half a town that's over 60. So this is really relevant to a lot of people in town in the coming years. And so, yeah, I think if you've got 300 at surrounding towns, I'm a little bit hesitant to go all the way up to 500, but I'll defer to, I mean, I understand the arguments everyone's making.
Yeah, but surrounding towns are charging for the plots, and that's the big difference here. So it's really a huge savings.
Yeah.
Being buried here is cheap, really cheap, as compared to looking at any of these other towns. You're paying $1,950 for West Stockbridge total. Your plot is 500, okay?
Yeah.
Plot is 400 in Lee. Plot is 100 in Lenox, so they're low. Great Barrington, the plot is 400. So just by making this, the long-term care doubled, I don't think is a big deal. I mean,
But
you're
then you add
talking.
900 to that and we're up to, Mr. Atwood's fees, then you're at 1,400, which is in line with, some of these. I mean, a little. bit, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's
These are in line with the other burial fees of the other towns, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, opening and closing is pretty much going to be, across the board, going to be the same or very similar.
Well, it's very interesting.
Everybody.
I noticed that, who is it that charges, in Great Barrington, they charge $775 to open and close the grave. We've been charging $300 for a cremation. I mean, that's quite a difference in.
But that's Rich's charges, right?
Well, some of the towns might add other charges on top of.
Yeah, by the way, I simplified this. Some of the towns have additional charges for burial in winter, for burial on a holiday. I mean, I just to keep it simple for you guys, I didn't include all the variations. It ranges quite a bit.
I think when you're looking at it, you look at the plot and the perpetual care. Those are the ones that are going directly to the town.
Right.
And what would be the recording fee? Probably,
I don't know.
Probably
I was
$75 or
just saying,
something.
it's like 75.
About 75.
Recorded deed.
I mean, Patrick, we're asking people to pay another additional $250 total. That's all. They would have paid $250, now they're gonna pay
Yeah, it's
$500.
just, many of us got 10 or 12% increase in our taxes last year too. And if somebody's spouse dies, $250 is a lot of money to some people in this town. I'm just trying to be sensitive to
Well,
it.
we could also write in a stipulation in terms of need. Based on need. If this is
I mean,
a
that
burden
creates
for
more-
somebody, there could be,
We don't do a lot a year. We just would have to establish what the criteria is. And one of the
Right.
easy ones you could do is say that they need to qualify for the section D, I'm trying to remember the 44, the one, the assessors.
right.
That if they qualify for that, then they can qualify for a reduced fee.
Right, and the reduced fee could be $250.
There you go.
Good.
Just like
Well, I mean,
always.
good. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That completely takes care of my concerns if we're willing to do, if you want to raise or double it in
Right.
conjunction with that, I'd be happy to support it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
Motion? Do you need a motion? I make a motion, we double the fees with the caveat that if you qualify for section D,
I think it's 44D. I'll get the,
qualify for the assessor's relief, which Michael will clarify, that the charge stays at 250.
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Candace?
We're talking about, we're doubling the long-term care fee as opposed to charging for a new plot.
Yes.
Correct.
All right. Well, I said if time, we could talk about policy for cemetery tours, and we have time. So, any thoughts on that? Times of day, groups we want to allow, size of groups?
I feel like we should not regulate cemetery visits in groups or individuals during the day, and the cemetery should close at dusk.
Hours. Yeah, I think it would be smart to have hours.
Do you get a lot of requests? Are there a lot of, what is the?
last year we ran into a couple different groups around Halloween, decided to post on Facebook that they were going to organize tours of the Stockbridge Cemetery at night. And no one knew anything about it. It just had, somebody saw it and was reported to the town that people are organizing. So that's where, if somebody's running a organized event, that they should seek permission from
But that's not what I'm proposing.
Yes, we,
But it's something like the library and it's during the day, I do not want to regulate.
we do need to know when it's happening though,
Why?
because there might be a burial going on.
Not in the old section where they do the tours.
No, Patrick, the tours are all over the place. I've given tours and I've taken them to the new section. So that's just not true. Plus, how do we know that? If we're not regulating and we have no information about what they're doing, how do we know they're only going to the old section? I think it's reasonable. It's a working cemetery. I think it's reasonable that we know when these events are happening.
Look, I'm just not going to support regulating the library when they want to do their tours.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about regulating the library.
About individual groups, there should be a policy across the board of how we choose
Right.
how a group that's publicizing tours, whether or not they have to ask permission. We shouldn't say library or this group or that group. It should be, if somebody is publicizing on Facebook or other things, such as, again, haunted tours of the cemetery, and say somebody was running it as basically almost.
How are you going to enforce it?
Ever.
How are you going to register them? How are you going to approve them? And how are you going to enforce them?
If they come here and they ask permission, then we can grant permission. If not, if
Who's we? No, let's start.
cemetery commission.
Okay.
Maybe we'd have some, kind of a form, if you'd have a form, like a permit, you'd file a permit.
Other than that, a group in the cemetery that doesn't have a permit could be asked to leave
Bye.
by the police.
Okay.
We could have the form and permit maybe online, right? So that,
Exactly.
so people get information. We could also advertise it. We could have it on the website. We're not talking about the library. We totally support the library giving tours. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
What we don't want is what started to happen, which was
Right.
somebody from Pittsfield organizing a
Now you're
tour.
talking about individuals, so that's why I think the dust rule is adequate.
Well, I don't agree. I don't think it is
That's fine.
adequate.
And
Well, why don't we start by determining what the hours should be, or do you do it from sunrise to dusk,
Yeah, sunset.
sunset?
Yeah, dusk to dawn, the cemetery's closed.
Right,
Or reverse it, it's open. Is that something, first, we can agree upon that as a
yeah.
policy?
Can we agree
Okay.
on that one? Yes, we
Okay.
all agree?
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Okay, so we agree on that, all right.
dawn to dusk.
My concern is I just want to know when, I think that the town, when we have a facilities manager, that person, he or she, is going to need to know in case there is a burial, that there's a tour.
yeah, I mean, I completely respect that point of view. I just feel like we've been doing this for a long time without this regulation and I'm not going to support it. And I am not, if the group wants to, I'm not, I'm certainly not upset by it. I'm just saying that's my position,
Okay, I don't think I completely understand you, so that's all right.
Well, I think there's value to get people getting permission. It doesn't necessarily have to cost anything. We
Set a
just,
group size.
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it's,
what if 100 and something people started in one
Right.
group going through the cemetery as a tour at one moment?
right.
I'm just bringing these up, maybe we're not ready to, and need to explore and look at some other cemeteries and what they do.
Yeah.
Because it could be, right, I mean, if somebody's organizing a 10-person walkthrough, I know, right, I've seen a lot of times where like the historic committees in towns will have walkthroughs of the cemetery or something like that, or, small groups, and when do we want to, I guess the question, right, is there a problem for a solution, and then, when is it an issue?
Candace?
Good question. Yes. Is there a problem? And it seems like it might be the number of people perhaps. Because we don't really care where they're coming from. We don't care if they're coming from Pittsfield or Springfield. They're interested in Stockbridge Cemetery.
The problem with the Pittsfield group was not that they were from Pittsfield, it's that we didn't know it was happening.
Right.
And it was at night,
And it was at night.
and it was at night.
I've also talked to town council about this. I think you have too, Michael. There's an open question about whether on a piece of public land, we are able to regulate other than times. And I would just appreciate if you guys would answer that question too before we rule.
So that's the exemption of public property from somebody getting hurt on it. that if you restrict
Yeah.
the use of the property.
So I like the hours.
So you have talked to the town council,
I
or you
did
have,
talk to her about this, yeah.
so did you get an answer?
I would rather not give you advice, legal advice. I do think you should make sure that whatever we craft is, in her opinion, legal.
Absolutely. Okay. So it sounds like we should go off and think about this a little bit.
Yeah.
And talk
And
about
see
it.
what other,
And yeah, I'm
cemeteries
curious
are
about what
doing.
other cemeteries are doing. I think that would be.
I think
a good-
size of group though is an important one. You know, we don't, I mean, we wouldn't have never thought that somehow somebody was going to publish last year on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
To bring people into our cemetery after dark for a Halloween.
Well, we just dealt with that one, right? Do we need a motion on that? That the hours of cemetery is dawn to dusk?
Yeah, I think that one makes sense to put posted hours outside the cemetery entrance that, you know, the cemetery is open dawn to dusk. At least that's the first step.
So I make a motion, we add cemetery hours dawn to dusk and we post them.
Okay, I'll second that.
And if we need sign money, we can talk about it. Maybe we can bring it out of.
That won't be a
Signage
problem.
won't be a
The
problem.
signs at the entrance is just saying, open dawn to dusk. We just gotta figure out color and, you know, how to make it look so it fits the cemetery.
Okay.
So we could bring a couple designs of what we could make the sign.
We should probably be matching all the other signs that have already been designed.
All right.
For all the
Right, that's why
directionals.
I didn't, right.
Same type
We want
of,
it to look the same.
same font.
Same, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, very efficient. We've gotten through all of it.
The best. Thank you. By the way, thank you so much for all the great work you're doing. It's been, I mean, it's just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next meeting is Tuesday, March 22nd, 10 a.m. here and also hybrid. And I now call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you very much.
All right.